On behalf of the trustees and the board of Chennai International Center, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this evening's event. Um, we are talking today about a teenager, Chennai Super Kings. Um, you know how teenagers behave. So they perform brilliantly at times, but they can behave very badly at others. So, and CSK is no exception, I think. Of course, uh, it, it's 16 years old, but it's already a legend in Chennai. Um, well, I have to correct myself. It's a legend in India, not just in India, but all across the cricketing world. Yesterday, I had been to the match, and I had a couple of guests from San Francisco who had changed their entire schedule to be there to watch one IPL game of CSK. So that is CSK for you in terms of its appeal and its following. So there have been none better than an insider to tell us all about how CSK was born and how it's made its mark in the cricketing firmament. Uh, Bharat Raman is again, none of the three panelists here needed an introduction to this audience, but Bharat is the Advocate General of the state. But in his spare time, he's been a cricketer, played for Madras University, and is as competent as any to talk about the cricketing legend that CSK is. With him today will be W.V. Raman, Indian player, a batsman who got 313 runs. Not very many have got a triple hundred in any game, let alone top level cricket. He's been, while Bharat has been a CSK insider, he's been, while a Chennai insider, he's an outsider to CSK, having been associated with KKR. So he'll provide an outsider's perspective on this team. And moderating today's discussion will be our own Anand, a chartered accountant, but a very, very strong follower of the game. So may I request all three to come here.
Introduction and welcome Bharat Raman and W.V. Raman for this discussion on a very interesting and fascinating book titled Leo, the Untold Story of CSK. Now, before we plunge into the conversation, I did have individual discussions with them how to take this forward. And I formulated a few set of questions which I will probably toss to and fro to each one of them in turn, and I also have some common questions. But I thought this is a wonderful opportunity for us not only to discuss the book, which I'll come to the book, but also around the book. The game, of course, is as important as the book, and the book is about the game itself. So it's time for us to take where are we in terms of the fascinating game called cricket in its various avatars that we're going to see. But coming to the book, I must tell you that I took it up and started reading. I didn't want to close it. I read it in 2 sessions, 242 pages, 12 chapters. and it falls into three very distinct buckets. The bucket one is about the evolution of IPL in this country, how it all started, the structuring part, the role of BCCI, and how it gave birth to the concept of an IPL and therefore the T20 associated with it. It also deals extensively, I don't know how he captured the nuances of several of the CSK matches, the last ball finishers, the penultimate ball, and so on and so forth. I would request all of you to go through for several reasons. One, of course, is the detailing which has gone into the structuring of some of these matches. But the third bucket is the most fascinating bucket. I don't know, Bharat, whether you'll agree with me or not. And as somebody who's grappling with this problem of conflict of interest and some of the issues surrounding conflict of interest, this book is a treatise. And I'm not saying it to flatter him, but I'll go through a couple of lines which very well portrays the concept of conflict of interest, which is inherent in day to day functioning, leave alone the issue which has brought out in the book itself. And he himself says that it's a day to day issue, it's a corporate board issue, and so on and so forth. The fourth ancillary bucket is how CSK got banned for 2 years and then rose from the ashes to come back to conquer and so on. This is the overall structure of the book. I thought I should place the canvas of the book before we start the conversation. Now, I will start by asking Bharat first. I know you have mentioned it in the book that you woke up in Kodaikanal 4 o'clock in the morning, you didn't know what to do, you are walking up and down, and then you conceived this idea of writing a book on CSK. And that's how the whole structure of the book evolved. But I wanted to ask you a question. As a very distinguished lawyer, having so many cases that you won in various high courts, why did you not think of writing a book about the several high court decisions where you were associated with, but you thought of CSK first, unless this is going to succeed that. But I want you to talk about the conceptualization of the book and also how you coined this particular title called Leo. It's all up there in the book, but I want to get it from the horse's mouth first.
Sure. Uh,
It should work.
yeah, I can anyway. I'm used to that distance in the courts without a mic, so mic may be just superfluous. The idea of this book, Anand, actually stems from something which happened during COVID. Actually, your question should have been, how did you manage to write your second book? In COVID, when the first day when Prime Minister Modi announced that from this day in March 2020, everything is going to be shut. All of you will stay indoors. For somebody who's used to going to court every day, going out, meeting people, and all that, it was a complete shocker. So, just as I was wondering what the hell I should be doing with my time, my wife Padmini told me, "You always been talking about so many things about your father. Why don't you start sketching some of those incidents into something like not just a book or a novel, just maybe even a booklet?" So what started that very morning, the first day of lockdown, I went into my office, my house come office, opened the computer, took out a book. I still remember the book. Finally enough, it's my friend late Sham Kotari's memorial. His wife Nina had presented me with a beautiful silver engraved book. I took that book, put the date, and wrote VP Raman and started writing some things, typing them myself. That became a narcotic. From that day, writing became a bug for me. I didn't stop. Through those 2.5 months, we were inside our house locked up. I finished almost the entire book. And by literally by May or something, I'd sent the first draft to my brother Mohan and one to Raghu and one to my mother saying, look, some of those factual things. So that coming back to you, that was how my writing bug began. And after I released The Man Who Would Not Be King, which is the title of my dad's biography, the idea of writing again was getting into my mind. In fact, as I've written in the book, some friends suggested me to exactly what you suggested. Start writing about yourself as a lawyer, me as a lawyer, and incidents which have happened. Some others told me, why don't you write a novel? Go out of the bag, think out of the bag and write a novel. I thought writing about myself, I have not yet reached that place in life. A novel, I don't think I have the imagination. I laughed and left it at that. That was when in 2023, when we were 2022, in Puja holidays, we were in Kodaikanal. It was a rainy night. But my wife and I were in, spent the evening together, and it was not that I woke up in the middle of the night, that I just suddenly, it was like a flash. The entire trigger could have been that afternoon's T20 game which we played, the World Cup T20 game. Repeated references to India's performance having been kindled because of the IPL and how many fringe players India has put up and all that. So that night, suddenly, everything, memories of N. Srinivasan first going for the bid meeting. I was there at that time. From that moment, even before the CSK was conceived, going right up to that day, things kept flashing. And I just said, okay, I think this is the topic on which I'm going to write. It's a passion for me. So I said that, therefore, since I've been there from the beginning till the bad times, through the bad times, after the bad times, into the good times, which the good times were, because uh, we had once again got back to our winning ways. I said, in a way, writing about Chennai Super Kings is like writing about my family. It became a biography of my family member. When I had not thought of the title before, I had just left it at that. Then the idea of the title came about because Leo has the star sign, the element is fire, and the symbol is a lion. And CSK's one of the recognized CSK's logo, if you see, which is the cover of the book, is the lion with fire, which is how the idea of Leo was born. And there you have it.
Brilliant. I completely agree with you. Writing is very hard. It's very. Shall I remove it and just talk? That's better. Writing is not easy. It's a very arduous exercise. And particularly when you write for newspapers, Venugopal says you can't write more than 450 words a column and all that. It becomes very difficult. Writing a book is definitely very difficult. That much I can vouch for. I come to, in fact, incidentally, one important aspect of the book which I thought was very
This is
interesting
easier,
for a
Allah.
reader is all the sentences are crisp, very short, extremely reader friendly. You don't have these long sentences going up and down. Very user friendly. So I would like you to read it, if not for anything else, at least for the beauty of the English language.
I'll tell you what was my inspiration there. It's actually my father. He made me start reading some law books by a extremely eminent English jurist called Lord Denning. Extremely famous. He was the Lord Chancellor and everything, a master of the rolls, MR. Denning's greatness of his writings were that no sentence will have more than 10 to 12 words. He will try to use as simplistic a language as possible, 10 to 12 words, and no paragraph will have more than 6 or 7 lines. That makes it so much easier to read for a flow.
Excellent. I now come to W.V. Raman. The core of the book is about T20. And I remember C.D. Gopinath in the book release function of P.S. Raman few weeks back at the Welcome Hotel. He traced very lucidly the evolution of the game. It all started as a pure play 5-day format in England and slowly developed across several countries. Then we evolved the 50-over game, and then the entertainment value sort of got into the act, and then T20. My only worry is 25 years down the line, most of us maybe not be around at that time. Are we heading for a T10, T2, T1 like an international terminal number, or are we stopping with T20s? something which I want you to comment on.
It's definitely going to be a challenge for the duration format to survive because people want everything quickly, they want results quickly, and they also want a wholesome entertainment package, which is what a T20 is. Yes, the 40 overs format in England was perhaps a family oriented entertainment package those days. It was called the John Players League because primarily it was sponsored by John Players, the tobacco company, and then there was an embargo on tobacco companies sponsoring sporting events. But by and large, that's the route it's going to take. It's also going to take the route of football in terms of governance too, the way I see it. What will happen is that there'll be a lot of leagues sprouting across the globe, and that's going to be the way forward in general, the way things are now. And it's also a thing players would encourage as well because they get to play across the globe. They get to make a lot more money, and they're not really controlled by anybody. They don't have to sign contracts where they are bound by a lot of things. Uh, Footloose, fancy free, a lot of money, a lot of razzmatazz. What more do you need? I think that's the way it's going to be.
But what about the pure 5-day test match? Will it survive, not survive, in what form or shape?
It will survive if obviously the administrators look at making it a bit interesting or try and get a level playing field. By this, I mean they need to have a two-tier system. I think the ICC missed a trick way back in '98 when they should have perhaps thought of making the different nations in the Caribbean islands play as a nation in cricket as well and bring in another division where the plus or minus one or two promotion and demotion. I think that would have perhaps made it a level playing field because what happens is people like to see good competition. It's not about the nations per se, it's about them getting an opportunity to watch a good match. So if it's a match of equals, then you'll definitely get to see good cricket being played. It'll be exciting, and it'll go down to the wire, as my good friend Ravi says. So that's how it should have been structured. But it's something that they're mulling now. But I think that ship has sailed.
Or only hopes that 5-day cricket will continue to have its own charm like it does in Australia, England, and India as well, provided the pitches are sort of evenly played and all that. So, now, Bharat, I want to ask you this question. When I went through some of the matches that you've described in the book, I know you would have taken down notes and all that. As a lawyer, you do. But to capture some of the inner details of every match, and so many matches, it's not one or two matches, right? You've covered some 40, 45, 50 matches or more. How did you do that? I mean, one is to take down notes and then put it all together, but the process which you adopted to complete it, I want to understand. Not that I'm going to write a book.
No, the thing is that, in all honesty, I must admit, you might all think I must have been pretty unemployed. I literally attended every one of those matches
Okay.
across India. Particularly in the first period between 2008, the year we IPL was started, going right up to 2014-15. Even when I was Advocate General in my earlier avatar for Kalinger between 2000 and when I was 2009, 10, 11, as Advocate General, I used to see to it that if Rajasthan Royals and Chennai CSK were playing in Jaipur, I used to somehow at least take that late afternoon flight, reach Jaipur and attend the match and come back the next morning. So there were hardly any matches of CSK which I actually missed, including the beautiful 27, 28 days in South Africa in 2009. So when I write about South Africa, about what happened in Kimberley and Port Elizabeth and all that, I was actually physically there. My wife and I had gone. In fact, somebody whom most of you people know, a very close friend of ours, Dr. J.R. Subramaniam and his wife Aruna, were also with us almost through the entire thing. So these are all actually eyewitness things. I had not taken notes of these matches at that time. After I started writing the book, I took another new notebook with my date stamp marked in that book. I started recounting everything. I started recounting. What I did was I needed an aid memo. So I used two or three channels. One was, of course, the CSK archives itself. I also had some this thing through Cricinfo and some through the BCCI's own web page. There is some things there. So where I have actually witnessed the matches, I was able to tick it out and say, okay, this is where that most crucial thing took place. So I was able to recount that. So what I have done actually is that if I started writing about all the matches, it would have made the book very precise. So I used to pick and choose some interesting stories which were attached to a game and then make that as the descriptive part.
Very good. In fact, that's exactly what I wanted to say. When you read it, each match is a story by itself. There is the match, and then there is something around the match which is captured, which makes it more interesting for the reader. Now, I come back to W.V. Raman, and page 77 of the book actually talks about the emergence of Virat Kohli, and I'll tell you why. And Bharat Raman mentions it in that page to say that W.V. Raman spotted him when he was the under 19 coach. They were touring Australia. They played in Australia or South Africa. And I
I'll
think Virat Kohli, you can read it. I have already marked it. You can read it.
uh, I'll
77.
start with here. Yeah, uh, it was an extremely low scoring game, and CSK managed just about 129, of which Hayden once again scored more than half. RCB's chase was hampered, their mainstays Kalis, Dravid, and Uttapa getting out cheaply. But to keep the Kiwi hard hitter Ross Taylor company, in walked another young lad like Rohit Sharma for DC. I had actually explained about Rohit's first visit when I saw him as a boy. An under 19 wonder from Delhi called Virat Kohli. He made 30 plus in the low scoring game, and finally RCB won with just 2 balls to spare. Those of us who watched the boy knew at that point of time that we were witnessing the birth of a superstar. Many years later, my friend W. Raman, who was the coach of the Indian under 19 team that won the World Cup in 2008, shared with me that he had predicted even back then that this boy who had captained the under 19 was destined for greatness. He recalled telling the young lad that he would soon be wearing the coveted national colours. Kohli did make his test debut within 3 years in 2011. Raman proudly said that one of the first calls Virat made on hearing the news of his selection was to his former coach to thank him. Humility and respect for elders has stood with this sportsman, whom I would arguably rate as one of the greatest batsmen in cricket history.
So my
That's
question to you in that background is, when you spotted him in 2008, and he was a youngster, right? So many youngsters, they make good shots and they play very well, and then they get out and all that. What were the two, three attributes you saw in him which made you think that he's going to be a superstar?
The first thing that struck me about him was the responsibility that he was prepared to take, even at that age. And we were on the tour of South Africa playing a tri series, and he had an unshakable faith in his team. For example, we were playing the finals of the tri series, we were chasing a target of 296 or something like that. We were about four down for 70 or something to that effect. I can't recall the numbers. I'm very poor in numbers because I didn't bother about numbers generally. So I asked him. He had got out and he had a bit of a wind up with the keeper. He got out. He walked back. Then I asked him about how this game will pan out. I remember Manish Pandey was batting along with that Saurav Tiwari, the left-hander who played a few years in the IPL as well. He said, "हो जाएगा sir, don't worry. ये दोनों करके आ जाएंगे." So I said, "I'm asking you primarily because I've not seen these boys before, and that too in a pressure situation." So that was the uh, last game of the tour, and then after the tour, I sent in a report to the BCCI, which went on something to the effect that this boy will no doubt want to play for the senior side, and he'll also end up captaining if things go along the right lines. And I got a call from one of the BCCI guys. He said, "अरे WV 15 दिन में इतना क्या देखा है तूने?" And he had not got enough runs as well on the tour. I said, जिसको जो देखना है आता है, जो देखने का है 15 मिनट देखने से बस है, which roughly translated means that if you know what to look for, you don't need more than 15 minutes. I said, I've seen enough. 15 days is too long for me. So mark my words. I said, God willing, we'll all be alive in another few years' time. Let's see how fate decides things for him. So 3 years down the line, he was picked, and then to that person's credit, he called me and he said, "Yes, the first thing has happened." I said, "The second thing will also happen. Don't worry about it. It's just a natural progression." And that's how it was. And that was sent to Dave Watmore because he was going to take the team for the World Cup. He needed a report not only for the selection committee that happened while we were in South Africa, and also for the fact that he wanted to have a background about the young kids because he was not handling the under 19 side. He had taken up the position of the director of operations at the NCA. So the NCA head would always go with the under 19, if not for anything, just to try and save some money. That's how the PCCA functions.
Now it comes to spotting of the talent, and you got it bang when you assessed Virat Kohli in 2008. But if you look at some of the young talents who are playing T20, IPL, and you spot them, and some make it, some they don't make it. Somewhere it's a hit and miss situation, right? How do you actually go about assessing it? This came out right, but some can go wrong as well.
There are a lot of things that came out right, thankfully. The thing is that the trick is not to gauge cricketers based on T20. I say that based on my experience over a long period of time. I also remember MS Dhoni saying this repeatedly when he was a captain. He used to say that T20 is not the format to gauge a cricketer because that's a format which gives you a lot of allowance for a lot of mistakes, and you can get away in the T20 format without the skills that you need to succeed in international cricket. Mind you, it's MS Dhoni who said this, so he's not prone to just making statements now to play for the galleries. So he knows what he's talking about. So the thing is that now what is happening is in recent times, the propensity to sort of go gaga over a couple of performances in the IPL has taken over everybody, starting from the fans to the people in the fraternity. As long as the selectors don't get carried away by it, it's fine. But if the selectors start getting carried away by what happens in the IPL, then we are in trouble.
True. I
Just
Yeah, please go ahead. No, please.
interrupt on spotting talent. Just for the information of all of you here, the three of us share a common cricket league. We're all players of Grand Prix Cricket Club. There are two more people here. Raham and Shankar is there. We all are part of Grand Prix. And the beauty about Grand Prix is we had a secretary who's a former Port Trust section officer called Mukund. His brilliance is talent spotting again. This boy was just 12 years old. 12! That's a year younger than my daughter. Bowling beautifully for Hindu High School. So suddenly one day Mukund throws that to us saying that I myself, I was not much older. I must have been some 16 or something. 16, 17. We were only a few years apart. He said, this boy is going to come and play for us. Bharat, pick him up. I had a bike. Our first game was somewhere in Dunlop or something like that. Dunlop. So he said, go to Bells Road entrance. He and his father will be waiting. Pick him up and bring him to the ground. There he was, young lad with his small kit bag. Took him, went to the ground. 12-year-old boy bowling left arm spin. Unplayable. Beauty was on the other end. We had a 13-year-old boy called L. Ramakrishnan who was bowling from that end for Grand Prix. And it was mesmerizing to watch him. And that's how talent gets picked up. And what happened? He became an international batsman, centurion in Test cricket, ODI, everything. And how did that happen? Serendipity. Our wicket keeper, Manoj Prabhakar, என்ன Prabhakar? Sunil Prabhakar was the wicket keeper come opening batsman for Grand Prix. Got down with jaundice 8 days before our first division league match was to take place. So immediately the team committee met and they said, Bharat, you are anyway opening for Madras University, so you start opening for Grand Prix also. Mukund said nothing doing. 5 years from 5th division to 1st division, Bharat has played number 4. He will only play number 4. We will have W. Raman open. Everybody said he's a left arm spinner. He said, you guys are only watching him spin. I have seen him bat. Next to 1 week under Dharmalingam's coaching, Raman was put into bat and new ball bowlers bowling. He must have been 16 or something then. He was whacking the hell out of every bowler. Very first match against Reserve Bank of India at Marina. He made 126 and took 5 wickets. He became a big name in TNCA. Within a year, he started playing for Tamil Nadu. 3 years later, he was playing for India. That's how things are made. One jaundice. One jaundice.
It also has to be said that Bharat picked me up first when I was 12 years old. He didn't stop till I was 18 and I bought a bike of my own.
And
It
something
didn't matter to him. It didn't matter to him that he had to come from Lloyd's Road to Triplicane and then take me to engineering college. He still did it without any problems.
No, but the beauty was, look at the beauty of Rama. One fine evening, I got a call saying, "Day, your friend Raman has announced his retirement from international cricket." I said, "Apdiya." Then within half an hour, I get a call from Raman saying that, "Day, Barada, நீ வந்து ஆஃபீஸில் இருப்பியா?" I said, "இருப்பேனே." ஆஃபீஸ் எத்தனை மணிக்கு முடிப்போம்? 7:30 வாக்கில். Okay, I'm coming there then. Okay. Around 7:38, I'm looking out of my window. One Raman comes in his car, and behind him there's a huge truck also. I said, "Come down, we go." We took him inside. We both spent some evening together at a drink. And he said, "Dinner the truck கொண்டு வந்திருக்க?" He says, "They are all the kits I have got. Some 15, 20 gloves, some 10 helmets, some 15 bats, pads, this, that, the other. Every cricket courtroom you may think of, it's all there." I said, "What have you done?" He said, my cricket started here, let it end here." He just donated everything to Grand Prix and Grove, our two clubs. And we managed to make do with that for a good 2-3 years before TNC announced in 2016 that they were going to have free kits to everybody.
I think to sum it up, R. Mukund spotted you and you spotted Virat Kohli.
Absolutely.
I just made an assessment. I didn't spot him.
So now we come to the very serious part of the book, and it's about conflict of interest. We need to spend some time on this. The audience here comprises of cricket lovers and corporates as well. So the lots has been written, and to be very honest, he has taken a very balanced position as far as the issue is concerned, notwithstanding the fact we had to represent one party in the matter, but that's okay. But I am only reading 2 lines, and I want Bharat Raman to explain to this audience how exactly to deal with this subject in the situational context that he's trying to explain, and I'll just read those 2 lines. In other words, conflict of interest is not a disqualification but a situational issue. To be dealt with, one has to ensure free and fair debate or discussions on the subject. This is in some ways an offspring of the age old axiom that one cannot be a judge of one's own cause. That's what he has written. The context is the conflict of interest, in this case, BCCS secretary, India Cements vice chairman, CSK bidding, and it goes on and on and on. Lots written on that subject. If you can explain in a capsule form, it will be good.
Yeah. Yeah. When Lalit Modi floated the first set of tenders, BCCI itself was not sure how many corporates will buy teams for 50, 60, 100 million, whatever was the base price which was being fixed. So there are not that many people interested in 2008 to spend that volume of money to buy what is possibly some kind of a fun league team. So they asked N. Srinivasan, India Cements is one of the largest sponsors of cricket in South India. Why aren't you putting up a bid? Srini told at that time to Pawar and to Lalit, "Boss, I'm the treasurer of BCCI. I happen to be the vice chairman of managing director of India Cements. If they put up a bid, I don't want any issues to happen. You people quietly discuss it with the legal team of BCCI. Exclude Bharat out of the discussion because he's my lawyer, and Raghu, my brother." Pawar had the assistance of India's foremost lawyer, Arun Jaitley, who was at that time the president of Delhi District Cricket Association and a vice president of BCCI. It was Jaitley who told that conflict of interest is a situational disqualification and not a actual disqualification. Is Srini going to be privy to any information about the way in which the bid is being structured? Pawar said, and Lalit also said no, because it's being entirely done. None of the BCCI people know about the way in which the tender is going to be structured. It's being done by, I think, either McKinsey or one of the other KPMG. They are doing it. What about the base prices? Has base prices are also being overall debated by BCCI and fixed. That's all. In that case, we don't. Jaitley said, in that case, I don't see why India Cement should not put up a bid. He's disclosed his interest to us. We are okay with it. We want him to put up a bid. That letter of powers, I still have it. I didn't file it in the book because I thought it would be too controversial. He officially wrote, "Dear Srini, we have discussed it. Please put up your bid." That's how it was put up. So this entire issue being taking place after 7 or 8 years, saying you had a conflict of interest at the time as treasurer, your team should not have put up a bid, is according to me a red herring. It was not there at all. The truth of the matter is he was a businessman. He saw potential in it, which people didn't see at that time. What he paid $95 million for, given over 10 years' time. The simple logic, which very few, some of the top business people did get into it, was that the purchase of an IPL team is like starting an infrastructure company. Many of you are corporates here, you'll understand it. The payout is over a long period of time. You need deep pockets to keep running that project till the payout period comes. In IPL, everybody who knew the tender document knew the payout period was the 11th year. That first 10 years, you're going to cough out of your pocket the annual amount you're supposed to pay. In this case, Srini, I think, put 95 million for Chennai. He had to pay it over 10 years, $9.5 million a year he had to pay. But the 11th year, your payment to BCCI stops. And 70% of the broadcast revenue which BCCI gets is going to be distributed among the 8 franchises. That distribution today approximately comes to around 320 crores per franchise from BCCI. So that was the mathematics. There was absolutely no conflict of interest. The potential conflict of interest, which I have conceded in the book, was when Guru had the problem, when he was the president of BCCI. At that time, he stepped down. He did step down, saying that let the committee be over. After the committee was over, when he should have come back, they took up this conflict of interest for buying Chennai Super Kings and kept him away. He had 1.5 years left of his presidency. Gone. So we lost one of the best cricket administrators thanks to that quirkiness in the court proceedings. And I have, without being contemptuous of the court, because one of the judges is a very dear friend of mine, I've been pretty harsh on that judgment.
Yeah, but if you look at it, if you just remove the CSK angle and the cricket angle and just focus on the corporate angle, by merely recusing yourself on a transaction where there is supposedly there is some conflict, are you completely absolving yourself and make yourself completely white as far as the transaction is concerned? Is a point.
No, no,
In the Q&A, it will come up.
I'm sure it will not also. You can't absolve yourself completely, which is why the most crucial question Jaitley posed was, has Srini been as a treasurer part of any kind of a discussion dealing with the way in which the tender document is to be formulated? Because if he was involved at that stage itself, then also making a bid becomes a little tricky. That's where the distinction was drawn.
Okay. Now, I come back to W.V. Raman, and somewhere in the book, I got an impression in 2-3 places that the so-called unorthodox spinners, the Varun Chakravartis, Sunil Narayans, and Noor Ahmeds, who are emerging now, they are very successful in T20. Maybe in 50 overs game herself. To me, the classical leg spinner who's doing very well in 50 overs is Adil Rashid of England. He's a classical leg spinner. He's doing very well in 50 overs. But why is it that these unorthodox spinners are succeeding in T20? Not so much in Test cricket, but more in T20. Is there a method or science to this? I'm not able to understand.
Basically, from a cricketing angle, what happens in T20 is the batter is looking to go after just about every delivery that he's facing. So the probability of a bowler getting a wicket is 50-50. Whereas in Test cricket, the objective of a batter is to try and protect his wicket. And the bowler needs to have a lot more craft in order to plan a batter out. Of course, these days, yeah, well, old fogies like me reckon that the current day batters are not really batting as well as they can on turners. That's a different issue altogether. But the fact remains that in Test cricket, the bowlers obviously have to earn their wickets. The batters are in no hurry. Whereas in a T20 format, they definitely odds are much better for the bowlers because the batters are looking to hit a four or six, if possible, of just about every delivery. So their chances of succeeding is on the higher side. Of course, a lot of bowlers won't appreciate my statement here, but we're just talking. It's just a kind of a notion that's floated around. It's a tough job bowling in T20, but still the odds are much better if a batter is going to go after just about every delivery. And wrist spinners have done well in the T20 format, regardless of which nation they play the T20 competition in, or regardless of where they come from. You'll see a lot of wrist spinners having succeeded in the T20 format across the world. And that is going to continue because that is something that you need to handle if you have enough skill sets. Like MS has been very, very forthright in conceding that he doesn't like to play leg spinners. So a lot of batters don't prefer. Glenn Maxwell has got a few runs against leg spinners, but he's got out maximum times to the leggies. So that's something that the leg spinners will always have an advantage over the batters because they do have enough variations. And so the so-called mystery bowlers, they're doing well simply for the reason that's unusual. Something unusual will always fox the batters. And the thing is that if you're unusual, even in your batting, like a switch hit of KP or the ramp shot these days, is becoming difficult for the bowlers. So this is a format which will constantly demand innovation. It will also constantly keep the administrators on their feet to try and keep the leagues interesting by way of making changes in the rules frequently. You see the Cricket Australia doing it on a regular basis. They have a lot of changes in their rules once in 2 3 years, depending on how the previous editions have gone and what the suggestions have been and the feedback has been from the players and the spectators. So that's something which will have to happen. Otherwise, what will happen is that T20 will start losing its sheen as well.
Just to add something, all of you are IPL watchers, I'm sure. That's why you are here. Yes and no. Have you all noticed? Have you all noticed that nowadays, whenever a new batsman is walking in, he's going up with his bat to the and with the sleeve it's being put. That's one of the things which Raman would possibly elaborate. The center width of the bat is the sweet spot. Already we have got boundaries which are 55 meters to 60 meters, which is nothing. You have to understand that MCG straight six was 97 meters. So this bats took such an advantage. I think BCCA have now come down very heavily on the thickness of the bat. Yeah.
I think it's a commonsensical decision because what used to happen earlier was that the ICC had laid down rules with regard to the dimensions of the bat, be it the thickness of the edges, or be it the length of the bat, or be it the sweet spot contours. So what used to happen was that the third umpire or the fourth umpire would perhaps go into the dressing room and try and pick a bat and use this gauge to see if the bats conform to the ICC regulations. But these days, the cricketers carry nothing less than 20 bats in the bag. So you could be looking at one bat, he could walk out another bat. So it makes sense for that bat to be supervised when the batter takes it to the field so that he can't change it. And in case the bat that is showed the umpire to see if it conforms to the ICC regulations, and if it breaks while he's batting, when the new bat comes in, again that can be seen, and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this is what is going to constantly happen. It's going to be a case of cat and mouse game between the manufacturers and the authorities. and it's going to be a case of trap, escape, counter trap, counter escape kind of game going on all the time.
To flip that question around and staying with the same subject, you have also mentioned in the book that the likes of Ajinkya Rahane, KL Rahul were all classical batsmen, classical test batsmen, and they have succeeded in T20. It's not only the unorthodox people succeed, even the classical batsmen at good strike rates. So, how do you attribute that to?
See, it's all about knowing to write the alphabets. Then, when you sort of go move along in life, you sort of get along in life, you will develop your own distinctive style of writing a letter A or a B or a C. So that's how this is. Once the basics are in place, when a cricketer starts playing the game, once he gets the hang of the basics, then it's a matter of him spreading out his tentacles and improvising depending on what he can do within the framework of how he's learned the game. For example, Sunny Gavaskar cannot bat like a Sehwag. He didn't bat like a Sehwag. He can, but he didn't. But a Sehwag again will not look at batting like a Sunny Gavaskar. So, incidentally, yesterday we were discussing about golf. I had asked Sunny that if he had ever played golf. He said, I tried it, but didn't really sort of enjoy it. I said, your skills were fantastic in Test cricket, but it's not good for golf because you had a propensity to get hundreds. You can't get hundreds on a golf course.
That's a good one.
By the way, when you're talking about traditional players, right now, the classic example is Gujarat Titans, Sai Sudarshan, our own home
Sai
guy.
Sudarshan.
As straight a batsman as you can have. He's just
Very
there on the
successful.
purple cap,
Yeah.
fighting with another equally brilliant straight batsman from West Indies, Nicholas Puran. In fact, Hayden tells me that if you brought it up, the problems in West Indies not having a cogent body for Test cricket. He said that if West Indies had had a regular full Test thing, Puran will possibly be the only one who may come close to Brian Lara. He says that is his hit set.
For that matter, if all those administrators in the different islands were to just get together and keep this game going, West Indies would still be
Yeah.
a
World.
major force like they were under Clive Lloyd because they have enormous talent even today.
Good. Now I come back to Bharat. There is a very specific chapter, slightly controversial, but we need to discuss this. He makes a distinction between match fixing, spot fixing, and betting. These are three shades of, I don't
Yeah.
want to use a very strong expression here, not so very desirable practices. Let me put it that way. Now, match fixing is a team effort. You have to collaborate with the entire team to get the outcome that you want. Spot fixing is about a particular event in a game. In fact, when South Africa toured India in 2000, I think some of the players were accused of match fixing. It consumed the life of their captain Hansi Krone in an air crash on 1st June 2002, to be precise. So now and then we've been looking at this in a very, very, I don't know what to say. People are frustrated. Why is it going on? Why should there be match fixing? So much money is anyway on the table. And spot fixing, three Pakistani bowlers were caught spot fixing in Southampton in 2010 when Pakistan toured England. So this keeps happening all the time, and police are on high alert. All sorts of things are happening. But the concern is with all the preventive controls in place, it still happens. Like in corporate world, you put all the preventive controls, frauds do take place. This is something like that. Is there a solution or no solution? How do we have to live with this?
Yeah. What had happened is that match fixing in cricket is a very, very difficult thing to do. Very, very difficult thing to do. Raman will agree with me that you can possibly fix a player or two. Even if you fix that player, you fix the bowler, saying on 20th over, the match is going for close finish. You bowl some full tosses or long hops or something like that to the batsman so that the team will win. He can bowl the long hop. The batsman still has to hit it. So it's not very easy to do match fixing in cricket. The only time a football team got fixed was when the drug cartel in Colombia took over. They started fixing up players' families and started threatening them. So the whole team had to underperform and things like that. Became a big scandal in the 80s. Cricket as a whole team, it's impossible to fix. Spot fixing was the bigger problem. In fact, few of them got, including poor Srishant, was accused of that, and finally he got acquitted also. Back to BCCI. Spot fixing is possibly a little easier. In fact, recently the Tamil film test match with Madhavan and Nayanthara and Siddharth acting is about spot fixing. And Mohan is the father of Siddharth. The spot fixing is a much more difficult thing to address. As an administrator, I mean, I have been an administrator, I was the chairman of TNPL. I know how it is difficult to control the players. The best way they have addressed spot fixing is the ICCU, that anti-corruption unit of BCCI. Today, when some friends ask me also, my lot of judges and lawyers and my own colleague, additional advocate generals ask me, "Oru picture Dhoniyoda." I said, the moment, the previous day of the first match, till the complete conclusion of the last match, all the players are in a cocoon. They are in a cocoon. Even to meet somebody for a member of a press wants to interview them also, it has to go through the team's manager. Manager will have to take permission from the unit. ICCU will thereafter clear it, and only then in some specified place they will meet and finish it and finish the press conference and go back. That's the way they have kept players out, and the players' cell phones have got to be surrendered 1 hour before they enter into the ground. So these are controls. I mean, with that, even after that, like you said, in a corporate world, you do everything, even then some big scandal will happen and they'll say serious fraud investigation unit should take over and things like that. But to a large extent, it's been brought under control. Betting is the weakest. Betting is the weakest. World over, betting is allowed. In India, it so happens that betting is not allowed on sports activities. In funnily, ironically, the very same Lorda committee and Woodgall committee, which finally suspended CSK because Gurunath was allegedly betting, the recommendation to the government of India and BCCI was please make legalize betting. That's the end. That was actually their final conclusion. We would recommend to the government of India to follow the principles of sports betting as done in the United States. In UK, you can go to Ladbrokes and place a bet on anything from a horse to the cricket to the European Premier League.
Good. One final on the round, and then I'll have a common question. Is I want to ask W. E. Raman. Technology has completely taken over the umpiring landscape. Most of it. For most of the umpires, for everything, they now refer to the third umpire, except bowled, probably.
They're doing
Are we now looking at AI now coming in big time? Technology. In fact, Bharat and I were discussing. It's not that technology is completely foolproof. Umpiring has its inherent weaknesses in the sense umpire is bound to make mistakes. And mistakes are part of umpiring. That is provides the excitement to the game. Has technology completely withdrawn the excitement part and made it more a robotic type of a scenario as far as the game is concerned?
See, technology is not perfect because it's the humans who develop the technology. Secondly, in sport, you should not remove the human element. What will be sport without the human element? And even a lot of guidelines that they have in terms of the players' behavior on the field and off the field as well. It is sort of leading the players towards being robots because you don't really get to see a lot of humorous exchanges that used to happen in the past. And they're supposed to just get a wicket. Yes, that used to happen in the 70s. It was not a great celebration when a bowler took a wicket or whatever. Generally, the thing was that the point was made if you got a batter out. So that's how they looked at it. And then it went to various levels and different methods of celebrations we've seen over the years. But now ICC at times insists that you get a batter out and then go just show a few teeth and get out. So that is also not something that you want to see on a sports arena. So I think that it should be left to the match officials, the strict guidelines here, and it is also something that is subject to interpretations. So they should hand it over to the match officials. By that I mean the umpires, on-field umpires, and the match referee. And of course, anything which really crosses the mark, you got the video these days. You got about 40 cameras all over the stadium, so you can pick anything that you want. But once again, you will have a lot of irony in all this. Even though there are 40 cameras, sometimes they conveniently fail to pick up the methods that are used by a few to rough on one side of the ball. So these things do happen. But again, talking about that, they should allow the bowlers to resort to those tactics, because even if the ball is tampered with by way of a bottle cap or even sharp nails, you need to have the skills to produce that reverse swing, because we've seen a lot of bowlers during the time of Wakar and Wasim. Not many were able to do what they both could do. So at the end of it all, it's all about skills. At the end of it all, I feel that sport should be um, liberal enough to allow the human nature to be at its fullest. It shouldn't be curtailed. And at no stage, technology can take over the game, because the data can tell you a lot of things. The videos can tell you a lot of things. You can tell the bowlers this is what you need to do. But it is the human who has to do it at the end of the day. He's not going to be a machine. It's not like you program a human and say, okay, that particular 8 meter mark, you bowl the next over. Rest of the overs, we'll see what happens. So you can't really program a human like you can program a machine. And cricket being a game which is subject to a lot of variables, despite the fact that you try hard not to allow that to happen, it should not be bereft of the human nature, is what I think.
I
In fact,
completely agree with you. I think
if you see the DRS, the fallibility of the DRS, I always thought on sneakometer alone, DRS was a very good invention. But look at what happened the other day. MS Dhoni. The flickometer showed that there is a flicker, but the third umpire overruled the flicker, saying, in my naked eye, I still think there is a distance between the bat and the ball. So why have a flickometer then? Leave it to the umpire's decision.
I remember a conversation years back before technology came in. The concept of neutral umpires was first introduced, I thought, late 80s or somewhere, early 90s. 1989. Right. Exactly. And I was with Venkatragavan somewhere having a conversation. I asked him, sir, what do you think about neutral umpires? And he snapped back. An umpire by definition is neutral. Now we come to two common questions, and then we will. I want to have enough for Q and A, because a lot of enlightened people are sitting here. They should raise questions. First is Raman to you, and then it will come back to W. Raman also. We are grappling with this problem of spirit of the game versus the rules of the game, and I'll tell you why. Accountants grapple with this problem of substance over form. Lawyers grapple with this problem of letter of the law versus spirit of the law. In cricket, now we are grappling with rules of the game versus spirit of the game. And I'll set the context for you. In 1981 at the MCG, when Australia were playing New Zealand, last ball 6 runs to win, Trevor Chappell was instructed by his elder brother, Captain Greg Chappell, to bowl underarm. In 1 minute, he demolished the spirit of the law, though he adhered to the letter of the law. 3 days back, Ishan Kishan was supposed to have edged to the wicketkeeper. He walked. He thought he had edged. But before he probably reached the boundary line, this sneakometer and all the technology suggested that actually there was a huge gap between the bat and the ball. So there was no edge at all. He thought he was out. But the umpire did not recall him, and I read somewhere in Wisdom or somewhere in ESPN that according to a particular rule, he has to be called back. It's an opposite extreme. So, where are we in terms of spirit of the law versus letter of the law on the ground today? Both of you should answer, whichever order you decide.
Spirit of the law is more of a convenience. Nobody's been consistent with regard to upholding the spirit of the law. It's very simple. We've heard of a lot of people who are supposedly walkers during their days, but they have not walked 100% of the times. They have done when the scoreboard was looking good for them, for their side. When it was not really in favor of them, they have not walked.
Brian
So
Lara?
that is humbug. Anybody for that matter. GRV was my favorite cricketer. He still remains. Even GR hasn't walked 100% of the times. As simple as that. And Gilchrist, you take anybody for that matter. When the side is struggling at 50 for 5 in an important test match, Gilchrist will walk. No, he'll not walk. And the other side of the coin is that if you're talking about cricket, it's only in cricket you have laws of the game. You don't have rules. When there are laws, just adhere to the laws. And what Greg Chappell did in making his brother Trevor Chappell bowl under arm was a good tactic. He wanted to win the game, he had to do it, which is permitted by the laws. Then why do you have the laws? You come on the morning of the match and decide these are the rules we'll play under. It doesn't make sense to me. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way I'm a hard nosed fellow when it comes to all this. I'm not going to be talking about the spirit of the law, which is because it is not consistently done. I would say that I walked a few times. I have not walked a few times. It's as simple as that. That is dictated by the position your team is in. It's got nothing to do with your individual score. If you think your team is in a dicey situation, you don't.
Yeah, I will answer it to you people. You're all corporate, some of you are chartered accountants. It's the subtle distinction between tax evasion and tax avoidance. It's just a gray area. It's just a gray area. At the end of the day, you take it that you mentioned about the underarm thing. That opened it up. Now BCCA, the ICC have amended it. Mankad, run out. Non-strikers and Mankading. Our own homegrown Ashwin never makes any bones about wanting to do it. Is he wrong? I don't think he's wrong because, as Raman will bear me out, just taking 2 or 3 steps before the ball is delivered gives the non-striker such a fantastic
That's
advantage.
exactly what I'm saying. If it is permissible according to the laws of the game, just adhere to that. Don't give me this nonsense about spirit of the game because that is not something which is there in the laws of the game, where you have even dimensions that need to be adhered to when it comes to a bat. But it never says anywhere that a player, if he feels he's out, he has to walk out. It is only done voluntarily. So when you have laws of the game, go by it because it's less confusing. What happens when it comes to the spirit of the law is that if a game of cricket, 22 guys are playing, if five follow it, 16 others do the other way around, what happens then? Where does your spirit of the law go? And this is how controversies develop. Now, whenever there were changes in the laws of the game, it was only dependent on how England fared in the previous series because the TCCB was the governing body along with the MCC. So whenever they were pummeled by the West Indies, 5-0 in a series of 5 test matches, only one bouncer per over. So all the changes were affected only based on how England went about in the previous series that they played.
This spirit, I have something to do with it. I completely am one with Raman on this is the law, uphold the law. Where the spirit comes in is not in the manner in which you do a mankad or something like that, but the spirit is what you show on the ground as gamesmanship. That's a completely different thing. And in my book, I have written about an incident which happened year before last when everybody thought MS was going to be retiring. And in the match against Gujarat Titans, when Pandya was leading them, the whole crowd, the whole of Ahmedabad stood up to greet MS coming into the game. And there were almost some 60% in yellow in Ahmedabad. And MS came, he hit Pandya, took short covers. David Miller took the catch. And there was hushed silence, and Miller was about to throw the ball and come running. Pandya from there said, the whole crowd thought it was his last game. I'm not going to make all of us be like monkeys jumping up and down for his keep quiet. So every player stood wherever they were fielding, which is unheard of. I've written about it in praise of Pandya, saying that it showed the kind of gamesmanship he was capable of. That is spirit of the game.
Yeah, there could be
Nothing prevented them all to jump up, throw the ball up, hug each other, and do something to MS or something. No, he realized the pulse of the nation, pulse of the world watching the event, and just did this one hand.
But this debate is going to go on because it's always going to be an in thing as far as analyzing the game is concerned. But we will leave it at that. I'll come to the last and then we'll go to Q&A. Is that
Yes.
CSK is about Chennai, Chennai is about Chepauk. And I was just thinking, I did some research today. I didn't study so much even for my CA final than I did for today's meeting actually. To find out two best innings ever played in Chepauk. And to my mind, which I saw, I mean, I can't get into some analysis without seeing it. G.R. Vishwanath's 97 not out in 74-75 was the best test innings. Most of the people agree with it. There are one or two uh, other knocks also, but this stands out. In Ranji Trophy, it was T. Srinivasan's 137 against Karnataka against the best bowling attack 1977-78. Both of you, I want you to tell which are the two most memorable performances in Chennai: batting, bowling, wicket keeping, fielding. The field is open. You just decide and tell.
Uh, for me, several lovely innings come to light. One was Mansoor Ali Khan Pataudi's knock against
England
the
72-73.
Australia, Sheehan's team, 128. Yes, Farouk Engineer's almost century before lunch, 1967. Of course, G.R. Vishwanath, but incidentally, G.R. Vishwanath personally doesn't rate 97 not out as his best innings. No, he still rates that 124 is what he rates as his best innings. Kalicharan, that's right. I've seen some scintillating other performances in bowling also. Yeah, but batting in the batting arena, I've seen some fantastic performances on our league level itself. Raman and I, if we start talking about first division league, you'll all have to bring your breakfast also tomorrow. Some brilliant batsmen in Tamil Nadu, people have not heard of. Have any of you heard of a guy called Kedarnath?
State Bank.
Few of you
State
would
Bank
have.
opener.
Possibly the most stylish opening batsman I've ever seen. Didn't even play for Tamil Nadu.
I think as was the
Bowling.
batting side of things, I'll finish first. I would probably go in for that 100 couple made in the tight test. It's
Yes.
getting overlooked, but it was a fabulous 100. And if you cast your mind back, those days they had those tin hoardings, and the ball kept thudding into them, and that noise. You see the noise. And there's a story to it. The previous day, India, when they batted, they were about 240 for 5, everybody getting out for 30, 40. So Kapil Dev was really upset with how the day's play panned out. Everybody was inside the dressing room and he said, Arey, darwaza kholo tum, band karo tum log. Okay. They closed the door. Then he started giving a bit of a shelling in his polite tone. He said, अरे तुम लोग को ये टेस्ट मैच और वनडे का फर्क भी नहीं पता है आजकल. अरे सनी तू भी श्री जैसे हो गया, श्री श्रीकांत 30 करके आउट हो जा रहे हो and stuff like that. So what he was upset was that Sunny had that habit of getting to 100 once he crossed the 30 mark. So his contention was that they were playing a test match like they do in a one day. Next morning, Kapil was batting overnight. Next morning, Sunny, who never saw the match, he only batted after he got out. He will stay back in the dressing room. So he made it a point to come out, sit, and watch the first half an hour. Our man Kapil Dev on strike. First over to Steve Waugh. Third ball, one bounce over mid on. Four. Last ball of the over, one bounce over extra cover. So that started, then didn't finish. Didn't finish at all until he got to his 100. He got out. Then at the end of the day's play that evening, suddenly Sunny said, please close the door. I won't have a word with the team now. So Sunny said, then everybody obviously was keen to know what does he want to say. So Sunny shut the door and everybody paid attention to him. He got the attention of everybody. He said, Captain, very well played. One of the best knocks I've seen. But 24 hours ago, you accused us of not knowing the difference between one day and test cricket. But after watching you bat this morning, I was wanting to learn from you. I still don't know the difference. Cap says, Arey Sunny, you are a batter. I'm just a bowler.
One bowling performance, best. You can think or by the time audience can probably start the Q&A.
Prasanna 24, 6 for 24.
You take the mic, sir. Yes.
LS was the Delhi quarterfinal.
No, I would say Neil Foster.
86.
12
1986.
wickets.
86 or 84?
12 wickets against a very, very solid Indian batting lineup. And I
Check.
think that was Chepauk. And for a guy from England bowling in the sweltering heat that you faced those days in the old stadium, I thought that was a very good performance.
Neil Foster.
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
yeah. Good evening. This is Venkat here. My question is neither on the IPL nor on CSK. It's on Tamil Nadu cricket. It's 37 years since we have won a Ranji Trophy, right? So what ails Tamil Nadu cricket? Does it even matter to the administrators that Ranji Trophy we have not made it so far? And the other point I had on this is in 70s and 80s we had only two cricketers from Tamil Nadu consistently representing the country. Venki during the 70s and Shrikant during the 80s. But since 88, in this 37-year period, we've had many Tamil Nadu cricketers representing the country. At various points of time, we've had five, six players who have played Test match cricket, part of the team, and yet we have not made it. Every time we make it to semis, play against a premier side like Delhi, Karnataka, or Bombay, we get out before tea. Right? So, love to have
Yeah.
your views on this.
Before
And do you see some hope?
before he responds, I'll respond. Delhi, Karnataka, and Bombay leave out Delhi. They have not done too well in domestic cricket right now. The teams which have done brilliantly in domestic cricket are Saurashtra, things like that. Gujarat, Vidarbha, they have all done well. The problem which I was 18 years in TNCA, and every year Srini's biggest request to the team will be bring me the Ranji Trophy at least this year. Unfortunately, either during his time or my time that had happened. Last time it happened was when he brought the Ranji Trophy back to us. I don't blame the system. System provides the best league cricket possibly in Asia. Possibly in Asia. And we have now made the first division also a longer thing. There's some element lacking in the team. In the team composition, I don't know whether it's the composition or whether it's the players. I've been wanting to see it because right now, like you pointed out, some of the best talents even on display. Raman would not want me to take up IPL performances as an indication of players' capabilities, but it is there to see. You can field 11 from the Tamil Nadu players who are currently playing in IPL in the 10 teams. But what is happening? The same people, Sai Sudarshan, Sai Kishore, Vijay Shankar, Washington Sundar. I mean, there are to be Varun Chakravarti. So many people are there. Something is not happening. Maybe it's something like, I don't know. I'm not comparing it with the CSK of today, but something is just not clicking. Many of them were available through the year last year also. They played. Sai Kishore and Sai Sudharan was not there much, but Sai Kishore was very much there. Raman has a much more insight into it because he actually managed the Tamil Nadu team also, so you can possibly
The
come.
only time we won is 1987.
88.
That was his team.
87, 88 under Vasudevan slash Shrikant. So, in fact, Shrikant and I didn't play the finals. We were in Sharjah then. My view has been that Tamil Nadu not winning Ranji Trophy as many times as we should have done, perhaps, is due to the fact that I always maintain that intelligence is not an advantage, always. I'll tell you why. Because if you have to win Ranji Trophy, you have to have everybody wanting to do things in a particular situation in a certain way. And it has to be done in one particular way. Because, of course, there are different routes to a destination. But if in a team of 11, everybody has his own way of solving that situation, then you know what the end result is. That is why I maintain advantage is there, if you are intelligent in certain things in life. But on a cricket field, intelligence is not always an advantage. And especially when you have an entire unit which can produce a lot of guys who are capable of thinking on their own and thinking well as well. So you need somebody who can recognize this, who can channel this, and then take the team along. And that is what is needed as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. And I think that's one of the reasons why they have not won as many times as they should have. For example, I've been a part of team where we all were not at loggerheads with each other, but still you couldn't call us the best of friends because you don't need to be good friends with your workmates or colleagues or players. It doesn't happen always. It's just that you click with some of the field, you don't socialize with some. So that doesn't mean we don't have any respect for each other or whatever. But the long and short of it was that we all went in the same direction. We all had our own individual ambitions. We all realized the fact that unless we stuck it out together and went in the same direction, ensured that we all went to the farthest stage of the Ranji Trophy, we are not going to go anywhere individually. But what is happening off late is that they have too many avenues. And also, the fact remains that again, adding to that intelligence bit, with these guys being exposed to different coaches in their IPL franchises, again, the thinking is going to be at a different level. It's going to be from multifold directions. So again, that's adding to that bit of intelligence not being an advantage. And I think that is the only reason why we don't win. Whereas if you take certain states which have won, you go assemble a 16 and say, okay, jump from the roof, they'll all be jumping without asking you why, what. At times, you need to have people behaving like you're expected to in an army. You can't ask questions because there's no time for all this. You got to do things. You can't be questioning, you can't be showing your intelligence. And this is exactly what I told Ashwin in 2014 when he was nursing ambitions of captaincy. I said, um, it is very unlikely that will happen. And I gave him the route map that the BCCI or the Indian team will likely take at that point in time. So that is one. As far as administration is concerned, I don't think you can find fault with administration except for the fact that they also start pitching in with their views in terms of what the team should be doing. I think that's something that they should refrain from. Because what happens is it's so easy to add to the confusion. No, I sincerely mean it. When there's a side doing whatever it's supposed to do, and you go from the outside, you pitch in. It's a waste of time, and that's why I always stuck to one particular thing personally. When I'm done with one team, I don't talk about it. Let's say they ask me about the women's team or even the NCA or even the Tamil Nadu side. Once I've moved on, I make it a point not to talk about it because I did whatever I did during my tenure because that depended on the demands of that particular situation. Not a hard and fast rule for the incumbent to do what I did, or it's not fair on my part to try and run the person down who's handling the team now. And I have to confess that unless I'm involved with a game or a team in any which way, I don't follow cricket. I'm a very poor spectator, so I should be the last person to be questioned about the particular instances in a match or a particular knock.
In fact, we have lost all the last four times when we came up to the semi-finals and twice in the finals. We were the winners up to one session. We lost in one session and lost the game. That's the beauty about long games.
The solution is from quarterfinal, they should abandon semi-final, go straight to final.
Hi, good evening, sir. I'm Satyendra. I've seen about 100 matches 10 years back on the TV. I have some strange questions about cricket. When somebody catches a ball, somebody is out, why should the bowler get the credit? When somebody stumps, why should the bowler get the credit? When there is a run out from a long distance fielder, why should a bowler get credit, which never happens in any game, in football or anything. Please give me the logic.
For a
My answer would be that it's the bowler who creates the opportunity of a stumping or a catch.
run out, he doesn't get any credit. Fielder only gets the credit.
Even the goal, irrespective of who has passed it, only the guy who pushed it in.
Sorry?
No, there will be two players mentioned. The in some runouts there will be two players mentioned. Scorecard. Like if the bowler.
I would much rather one of you ask me a question for which I still don't have the answer. Have you guys recently seen a catch being taken, the Dougie Bollinger kind of a catch, which was taken by one of the teams a couple of matches back, where brilliantly the fielder went back, caught the ball in the air, threw it out, but his throw was not that good. But the other guy came running and dived forward and took the catch. Now, at the end of the day, one who took the catch gets the benefit. In this case, that guy who dived and took it truly deserved to get into the scorecard as the catcher. Otherwise, why is it that the guy who actually jumped back and threw the ball and somebody just standing there, you and me could have taken that catch? He doesn't get the credit.
Well, I am Ramesh.
Please be brief. Huh? Please.
I am Ramesh from Hindu High School. This is a question to W. Raman. We had spoken some time back about the width of the bat and stuff like that. So, having also taken the name of Greg Chappell, now I remember that there used to be an instance in which he came out with an aluminium bat kind of a thing. And so, when that be the case, has the laws of the game got changed in recent times by which any other metal or plastic or not necessarily the willow, the traditional willow alone should be used, or any other composite material can also be used? What is the status quo as of now?
It was used by Dennis Lilly. He brought out the aluminium bat. And what happened immediately after that was in the laws of cricket, it said a batsman, those days the word batter was not there, batsman can bring a bat made out of wood, was how it was framed. When you went into the laws of cricket, it said about the stumps, the bails, the bat, the ball. So it said a cricketer can bring out a bat onto the field that is made out of wood. One thing you must give credit to the British, they are good in framing laws.
Not in. Yeah, it's okay.
It is. They sometimes use composite wood now. They use composite wood, which is why the bats are brittle. They don't last for more than 8 or 10 games. Some of the bats Raman and I used in our league, we have used it for a full season and more. 2 seasons also sometimes.
Yeah, that's because
Remember my BDM, Raman?
yeah, BDM would last and last and last. By the time you felt it was a good bat, you had to spend 2.5 years with it.
Used to use Vijay Super for 20 years.
Sir, this is Vishnu. First of all, lovely discussion. And my question is very simple, sir. Starting 2008, IPL came in, changed the facade of Indian sport. For good, for bad, that is still debatable. But yet, it changed. My question is very simple. The other sports, we talk about tennis, we talk about football, we talk about basketball, all tried to emulate the concept of league, domestic leagues, commercialization of leagues in the same IPL route, but was never able to succeed. Apart from that, even the Indian teams in other sports are not in the level of where cricket is today. What is the difference? What is the difference that cricket has that the other sports could not bring in? Is it just the great system, the foundations, or is it the marketing, or is it the attention that people give? What is the difference between cricket and other sports that could not bring this change?
For all the criticism BCCI cops, I think it's the best governed sporting body in India. I'll give you one example. When the COA was in place, when the BCCI was dismantled and there was a lot of things happening, suddenly the LODA recommendation said you have to bring in 9 new northeastern states into the fold and play. What used to happen was, this was perhaps decided in the month of June, and the season was going to start in September. Not much of time left. Now, if you're going to bring in 9 sides, what it did to the overall system was the 9 states will have 8 teams, 4 in the men's vertical 4 in the women's vertical, which means the 16, 19, 23, whatever. Now, what that did was that from about 1200 matches in a year, the quantum of matches leaped to 2109. Now, for the corporate guys, calculate the percentage of increase. Okay. And that is executed. And it doesn't stop there. You need coaches, you need umpires, you need venues, you need scorers, you need everything. And the demand was there, the supply was a bit dodgy at that point in time, because the system had only personal recognized to do all these games, uh, to accommodate 1200 games, and they carried it out without any problems. And that is an indication of how the sport is being run over a period of time. It's all there. It doesn't matter who gets into the position. Cricket will go on in India. That's why, regardless of what people say and what you get to read, the blueprint that the BCCI has put in place is fantastic. It's very solid.
The other associations, sporting bodies, which is your question, incidentally, there are three other leagues like IPL which are doing very well. Uh, Kabaddi is highly watched, very highly watched. I mean, I spoke to the broadcasters. Raman will have more to say about it. Kabaddi is very highly watched. The football league is very highly watched. Chennai football, the Chennai team is also there. I believe there are some 10, 12,000 people coming for their football games.
Enough money in those games also?
They are creating it now. They are creating it now. So it will happen. See, chess has become big in India. Chess has become very big in India. We are the chess capital of the country. Hockey, we have been a little dodgy. We have been a little dodgy, but we have been doing it in patches in hockey.
Prove your quality of governance in other sports. Public will follow, corporates will support, everything will happen.
Lovely answer, sir.
Until you do that, it's not going to happen.
Okay. Please excuse my pronunciation and accent. Uh, all major games have defined metrics like number of baskets, number of goals, etc. So they don't have much chances for innovation. But cricket is the most amenable game for innovation. We already innovated from 5-day matches to one-day match, T20, whatnot. I think IPLs can play a big role in innovating it more and more interesting, more and more common. Like, a street cricket player to a international cricket player. It's a big, I mean, it's only cricket is amenable to that. So he hats off to cricket for that.
So why Americans did not become cricket players?
There are enough cricket going on in America right now, actually. Particularly in 3 or 4 states. It's very, very popular. Texas,
Good evening, sir. This is Nitin.
New York, California.
Last question. He has to leave at 7:30, and then we'll do a quick wrap
I'll
up.
be short, sir. Good evening, sir. So question to Raman, W. Raman, sir. So going back to the start of the evening, you mentioned so the players and the fans, maybe even the franchises, get carried away with the unorthodox players nowadays. And you mentioned that is where the selectors maybe need to refrain from. Where does you yourself being a coach? So where does coaching stand in this? At a IPL level as well as a grassroots level.
I was saying that the mystery spinners, the unconventional players are sought after. I did not say the selectors should not pick them. I only said the selectors should not get carried away by the performances in a couple of games in one IPL season. As far as coaching and IPL side is concerned, I don't think you have much to do, because the teams assemble maybe with about 10 days, 15 days before the start of the season. And all of them are guys who have played a lot of cricket in the preceding months. And they also know what it takes for them to succeed. Where you have to play a role during the IPL is in trying to ensure that you create an atmosphere where the players and the rest of the gang, when I say gang, I mean the squad, support staff, everybody, the families, and all that. You create an atmosphere where they find it easy to handle the ebbs and flows during the season, because this is subject to phenomenal fluctuations, the results and the personal results and the outcomes. And the players come with a lot of expectations. And when the families come with the players, now they have their own expectations also. So all these things will bring about a lot of challenges emotionally. So the important job for a coach during the IPL is to try and ensure that you handle everybody well enough, and you create an atmosphere wherein they are able to handle these fluctuations rather easily. It's not going to be easy, but still you try and make it easy as against making it worse by creating a shit atmosphere, or not handling the players well enough. So that seems to be the grouse of some players with certain franchises, whereas the home team scores top marks in that.
Yeah, I wanted
As
to
far as
actually. There's nobody asked me that question, Ram. I was waiting for somebody to ask me that what's the problem with CSK. There's no problem with CSK. Let me tell you all. There is an issue. The 11 which played last evening, I'll say 12 now with the impact player also playing, except Jadeja and MS, the other 10 have all been inducted into CSK between 2022 and 2025. This is the first time it has happened. In 2023, when we won in Gujarat in the last ball with Jadeja sweeping it for a 4, 7 or 8 of the 11 have been with CSK for more than 5 years. It was a big bonding. That is why I have to give tremendous credit to not only the management of CSK but to mainly MS Dhoni and Hayden for getting the first team itself to become a family unit in the very first year. Hayden was, I didn't mention it in the book because Hayden didn't want me to, but I told him, boss, we also got about 9 foreigners in the squad. You sort of keep them as a flock, get them together, and then bring them in to integrate with us. And between them, that's why they used to share adjoining rooms in the 14th floor of Park Sheraton. Because nights they used to sit and discuss. He used to say, okay, this guy is a little uncomfortable or something, let me bring in. That kind of thought process went through to make the 24 guys like a family. And once that got set, it was unbreakable. Then few family members will get married out and go somewhere. Somebody else is coming in to replace them. That consistency was going on right through till this year. When we
And the other thing the CSK has done well over the entire years that IPL has been played is not really follow what NS really wants. NS is a man who would want his side to get 1,000 for no loss and bowl out the opponents in 2 overs time. So if they were to try to do that, I don't think they would have fared as well as they have done. That's the kind of man NS is. But
he never
one thing
interfered.
for sure,
Never interfered.
he
even
never
once.
interfered. He never said all this to the team, from what I know. And they have been tremendous in terms of looking after their team.
And the first year, 2008, when we lost to Royals in the finals in DY Patil Stadium, previous day itself, he had told the team, irrespective of whether you win the finals or not, you will still get your 20 crores, which was the playing prize money. Irrespective whether you win or lose, the 20 crores is yours. He was the first franchise owner to say the entire prize money is going to be distributed amongst all of you.
Before I call upon Venu to give the concluding remarks, I just wanted to give one humor which happened in Chennai, 1974, 75, 78, 79. I don't remember the year. West Indies was chasing a fairly manageable fourth innings target and Kalicharan was batting brilliantly. And when he wanted to steal a single, umpire Gothoskar ruled him run out. And he genuinely felt he had made the crease. A completely dejected Kalicharan came back and they felt that she should have won the match. In the team bus which was taking them to the Connemara Hotel, it's recorded somewhere as a story. They saw the figure of a political leader with his hand like this. And Kalicharan stood up and said, "Good evening, Mr. Gothoskar."
Before Venu, I thought I should end the evening by reading the last page of my book because we don't know whether Mahibai will be playing next year or not. I named this final chapter It's Raining Sixes, followed by Sunset at Kurukshetra. I was proved right on the former, not on the latter. Statistics show that in IPL 2024, a grand total of 1,266 were struck, the highest ever. The sun, however, did not set as this book goes into print. Mahendra Singh Dhoni, much like Bhishma in the Mahabharata, epitomizes every virtue a person should have as a leader or a warrior. He makes people grow under him, much like a banyan tree. In the last few seasons since he retired from international cricket, in almost every IPL game, both before the toss and after the match is over, one can see Dhoni standing surrounded by a group of young cricketers from the opposing team. They lap up every word from his master's voice, imbibing his advice as they step forward in their own career. There are numerous products of this tutelage, and I dare say there will be several more in the years to come.
Thank you. When three passionate people join together, great conversation. But if the subject is cricket, then we have 100 people in the conversation. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the wonderful evening. And thank you for coming here.
Thank you. Thanks, Raman. No, not a problem.